Welcome to the Pinning Combination Podcast. I'm KJ Pilcher alongside Dick Briggs, and it's our pleasure to tell you that not only are we joined by Wyatt Schultz, but it is now Hall of Fame inductee Wyatt Schultz, who'll go in as part of the 2020 class at the Iowa Wrestling Hall of Fame. So congratulations, Wyatt, on a well-deserved honor. The news came out this morning. Wyatt will be going in with Tom Hogan of Don Bosco, Thomas Huff, Colonel Thomas Huff, formerly of Waterloo West, and then Centerville and Iowa wrestler Chad Zapito. So pretty cool. Congratulations on that.
That was cool. I've known about it for about 6 months already.
Really?
But yeah. One of those things I just don't. I hadn't told a lot of people. In fact, I just told a couple of the kids last week.
Really?
So, yeah, it's one of those appreciative things, but it's a lot of the people that help me. It's not necessarily just me. So
awesome. A lot of humility there. Putting in a lot of time and effort over the last 3+ decades. not dating you at all.
Don't remind me.
But
so deserving.
So congratulations. So that's Hall of Famer
in April.
April 13th is the date.
Is the banquet.
Is the banquet date.
Okay. So pretty great honor that I'm sure you've seen Wyatt. If you've been around high school wrestling or college wrestling, even for that matter, wrestling at all levels, you've seen him on the edge of the mat taking photographs, running track wrestling here in recent years as well. So a lot of hours, a lot of time devoted to the sport. Thank you for that.
So thanks for everything.
And of course, we've been doing this for I don't know how,
for quite a few years.
Yeah, back when we were in like a little booth, just talking into mics and getting people on the phone to join us.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun too.
Yeah, except for when people would walk in on us thinking it was an empty room. And one time we even we had a snafu. Do you remember when we interviewed?
I do.
Jason Christensen.
Oh yeah.
And then we had to go and do it again. We had to call him up and do it again
because we forgot to hit the record button.
Yep. And Jason was extremely gracious with that.
You talk about embarrassing.
That was. So we've been through a lot, but
it's like a photographer take the lens cap off.
Wow.
But congratulations on that. So as we said, well-deserved honor for Wyatt. Well, let's jump in. Big competitions this last weekend. The Big 10 and Big 12 are part of the D1 qualifying tournaments, conference championships. In Iowa wins its first outright title since 2010. They shared the title with Ohio State in 2015. So their first, at least a share of a title in 6 years, but first outright one in 10. So Iowa scored 157.5 points, beating, what was a surprise, I think, Nebraska really finally put it together in the postseason.
And they actually placed all 10 guys in the top 7.
Really?
Yeah.
So that was a nice weekend for the Cornhuskers, but still finished about 25.5 points back of Iowa. Ohio State was third, Penn State fourth. And Purdue, Tony Ursuline, continuing to do good things there at Purdue, round out the top 5. Iowa had 3 champs in Spencer Lee at 125, who dominated his way through. If after this weekend he is not the front runner for the Hodge Trophy, I don't know what to think. But he led the way. Pat Lugo avenging a loss to Sammy Sasso in the finals against Ohio State for the 149-pound title, and then Marinelli avenging a loss to Joseph with a late takedown at 165 for the title. 2-time Big Ten champ there. But what were your takeaways from this weekend when it comes to Iowa?
it was interesting listening to the crowd with Marinelli and Joseph, because when they go upper body to upper body, the crowd is just anticipating.
You
But
hear
the
the
other
gasp?
thing, yeah. But the other thing with that is, he got his winning takedown on basically a basic single or
Leg
double leg
yeah.
takedown.
But it was his attack, his
Right.
relentless attack third period. Even when they had that timeout, he came right back at it and was on it. And I'm telling you that, to me, that's just the kind of guy he is, and it's fun to watch him wrestle. He earned and deserved that takedown.
And I also got a feeling that both of them like to wrestle each other, just because you never know what's going to happen.
I don't want to go overboard, because you think of some matchups. You think of like Lewis and Burley. You remember
Oh, yeah.
how they would get in positions and they didn't care. They were going to go after it, and I think you've seen maybe snippets of that when it comes to Marinelli and Joseph, that they'll hook up with anything, and they don't want to give an inch, and there's no bailing out of positions. It's, I'm going to win this regardless, and we've seen some pretty neat
I
plays.
actually did. I thought I saw. I don't want to call it bailing out, but not capitalizing on it when Marinelli got thrown to his back in that throw.
Oh.
And
In the duel.
Joseph, no, in this.
Oh, in this
and
one,
it came
okay.
up neutral, but I thought Joseph had an opportunity to get the takedown,
And
on
he
that.
bailed.
And he didn't necessarily capitalize on that. Didn't bail.
Right.
But that credit Marinelli for just continuing to wrestle, not laying on his back or anything, because he was there and then he wasn't. So I mean, that's just great wrestling again. So really cool. So I appreciate that. Another takeaway for me in this tournament is that there's so many weights in the Saturday and Sunday that if you wrestled them again could end up a whole different way. Like, for instance, at 33, you could wrestle that 5 different times and have 5 different champs. And so, what happened this weekend kind of sets people up, whether they're from Iowa, University of Iowa, or anywhere else, for a nice seed. But it doesn't guarantee anything in 2 weeks, because it's going to be fun to watch, and it could be topsy-turvy again. So it's just, to me, that's the fun of NCAAs this year.
It's going to be wild. The other takeaway, at least for me, everybody has always mentioned that Spencer Lee may not be able to last in that third period, but he just widened the gap in that third period, because it was only like a 6-1 or 8-1 or 8-2 going into that third period, and he just basically stuck it to him.
A lot of people kind of mentioned that looked like there's a little bit of a different tactic this time. Instead of takedown going right to tilts, he played a little catch and release with some people before doing that or putting them away. So that's something that makes it even scarier for people when it comes to the NCAAs and having to face Spencer Lee, because it's not just a takedown and tilt. He can and do whatever. I believe Spencer Lee was the OW.
No,
was-
133. Seabass.
Oh,
Yeah.
Sebastian.
Just, I think
Rivera.
mostly because of strength of weight, but he also was the 5th seed that came through and won it, and did a great job.
Spencer Lee was a Big Ten wrestler
Wrestler of the year.
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
Yeah, and Tom Brand's coach of the year as well. Did you happen to catch who freshman of the year was?
No,
I would assume.
I didn't
I would
see
assume
that
it
either.
would be Aaron Brooks, but
I would think so.
we'll check that out. One of the other things too that I thought was interesting or kind of a positive, I would think, was you had 9 finish at 5th or better, even though everybody was seated 3rd or better. Young being the exception there, but I don't know if everything was right with him this weekend. But there were some disappointing losses there on the front side on day 1, but guys like Muir and Warner snapped right back and rebounded. Warner coming all the way back. I think he won 4 on the backside to get 3rd. 141's another one of those weight classes that I think outside of the top 2, which I was surprised that Luke Pilcher won. I know Lee got kind of banged up a little bit there in the final, but a big win there. But I think that's a tough road to hoe in the consolation. Where you have guys like Chad Red, Murin.
Well, in both their cases, Murin and Warner both lost to wrestlers and then came back on the backside and beat those wrestlers.
Right.
Like Murin beat McKee, lost it and then beat McKee, and then Warner with Rashid. So nice to see that, and that's not easy to do. Come back on that backside.
Then we had Kemmerer and Hall, where Hall was able to avenge that. A little bit of the neutral zone danger thing that maybe Kemmerer wasn't aware of.
See, my opinion of here's how I saw that.
Okay.
I think Kemmerer was thinking he was getting the count.
Oh, okay.
Because they're both exposed, and I think he was thinking he was getting the count, and then when he looked up and the count went to him. So that kind of, to me, that kind of answered that question. I really think he thought he was getting the count, and then it ended up going Hall's way. So and that was huge. That big difference. That first takedown, and then of course that.
Yeah.
And
and Kemmerer fought back, ended up being 8-5 after being down, I think 7-1 or 7-2.
Well, it was even 7-5. He released him to try and, I believe, at the end to take down.
But I also think, because we all know how hard Hall is to score against, I'm also believe that if anybody can beat Hall, Kemmerer is the guy.
Well, we know that.
Because even in that last takedown, he had a nice takedown where normally Hall gets in a scramble situation and can come out of that, and Kemmerer just got a nice double single leg takedown on him.
Well, I've always said the revenge factor, and Hall had the revenge factor in his corner on this instance. So maybe at Nationals it's in Kemmerer's corner. Plus, Hall kind of shut down after that first takedown. He didn't really shut down, but just wasn't taking shots. And once he got that first takedown, and then of course obviously in that danger, which ended up being 2-2, and that was it right then. So I think we're going to see a different match at Nationals, assuming they meet each other in the finals.
Tony Cassiope came back and got third as well in his first appearance. His only loss to Stevenson there in the semis. Good showing for him as well. It's going to be fun at the Nationals for some matches, like another possible Marinelli-Joseph matchup. Hall, Kemmerer, even expanding beyond Iowa. How about those matches at 133 that, like Seabass and Gross, or Roman Bravo Young with DeSanto, or Seabass, or even Gross as well.
Right.
That's going to be a fun weight class to watch how everything plays out.
And speaking of Roman Bravo Young, I don't know if you saw that match with DeSanto, but he wrestled a match where he had one arm behind his back. He was not going to give DeSanto that arm or that hand, which I found kind of interesting, I guess.
Yeah, just a different tactic.
Different tactic.
He did that in the duel, though. He doesn't want to give him that Kerry Kelly that DeSanto does so well. So, and actually, there's other people that have done that as well, kind of followed suit. Was it who? Yeah, because then I think at Oklahoma State, I don't remember. I think they did the same thing as well. So,
so he's been scouted on.
Yeah, for sure.
Who is your surprise champion? Was there anybody that stuck out as a surprise champ?
Mm-hmm. It wasn't. I almost picked him, but Rivera at 33 because it could have went any way. But I don't know if you guys remember, but I mentioned he's a champ last year. He's a threat this year. So I almost wished I would have called that one. But I'm surprised only because he did it from the 5th seed, and I mean that's such a tough weight class; it could go any direction. So that's my surprise, I guess.
Yeah. His wins were what? Piotrowski, Gross, Robin Bravo Young. So, Yeah, I'd have to agree there. Who do you think was the most impressive?
Well, Lee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I have to say right now that heavyweight is such a deep class, and Stevenson's to me is heads and above everyone else right now. I just he just looked. It looks like when he wants to turn it on, he can take anyone down at any time, and so that to me is also pretty impressive.
The interesting thing with him is he can wrestle a match and win by 2 or 3 points, but yet seems like it was a major decision.
Not close.
Just because he seems to be in
dominates it,
control so much in his bouts. But Iowa, 9 automatic qualifiers. If I had a farm to bet, I would say Caleb Young probably a lock to get an at-large bid at 157.
The way I understand it is they go by, and of course that's the RPI part of it. They go by how you have done this year, not last year.
Right.
Even though you're an All-American last year, it does not count. And when you're winning 85% of your matches, even though he went 0-2 this year, they're going by this year's results. So I'd almost say, not that it would be a lock, but it's kind of there.
Yeah, I would think so. I think he ranks high enough. Like you said,
Right.
his body of work, I think puts him in that position.
I don't know enough about the procedure, the process, but you would think he would be. So
Interestingly, you know what you have with Penn State, but Meredith at 125, kind of on the outside looking in. I doubt 157 Piper gets in for Penn State. At best, they're looking at taking 8, even though a lot of those 8, I would guess Neville's at heavyweight gets an at-large. I think Verclearen's maybe on the bubble a little bit at 149. Thompson, I would assume, is ahead of him, who didn't qualify for UNI. I think that hurts their Penn State's chances at 149 and getting an at-large. But it depends on the breakdown of the other conferences. But you're looking at 7, 8, 5 possible finalists. Two.
I'm going to go with
Is that
6
enough?
possible finalists.
Really?
Right.
I think so because they had 6 finalists in the Big Ten, and I think all of those could be reversed. Maybe So honestly, I still think they're a huge title threat for the team with just those 6 kids, if they all happen to make the finals. So, I think Penn State, don't turn your head on them just because they finished 4th in the Big Ten.
Sure.
You can go back to 97 when Iowa had the 5 or 6 in the finals. You start putting these 6 guys in the finals. That's a lot of points.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see, but not having those extra point scorers.
Well, then throw in Rashid, who's not one of my 6. So right, and
And I figured that's who you were talking about was Rashid maybe even making the finals.
well, didn't they have 6 in the finals?
5.
Did they only have 5? Maybe that is Rashid that I was thinking. Yeah. So, so they're. I think they're. I think they're. Iowa's going to have to be on their toes to win it, and they know that, and you can kind of sense that with the way Tom Brand's, his comments afterwards. Yeah, that's nice. We won the tournament. Let's keep focused. We had 2 weeks now. Keep working. Still room for improvement.
So, some other comments to note.
3-3. 3.
I think one of these is. I think that's a mistake on the flow because Meredith had to wrestle in that.
It shows that.
I think that
ninth or whatever.
Yeah, that
Gotcha.
9th place
Match.
bracket became a championship bracket. At least that's what
Shows
I
on the
noticed
numbers.
during the tournament. But Max Lyon of Purdue and Western Dubuque notched his
184.
second berth.
Finished sixth. Had to
Sixth,
come back.
yeah.
Did he have to come back and win that sixth place match? Was that a true sixth?
No, they took 10.
10 at that weight class.
10
Yeah,
that
they
way.
took 10 at that
But
weight.
he was,
Maybe
if you
He
remember
was a
right,
10 or 11 seed.
he was
I-
11th seed.
11 seed, yeah.
To finish sixth, lost a match to Assad in like double overtime. On the backside as well. He wrestled. He had a good weekend.
Yeah.
There as well. So, Alex Thompson got sixth as well. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, he did.
From Underwood. So he was another one that I think was below. I think he was a 10 seed.
Yeah,
as
10 or
well.
11, because he had to work to get into that top 8.
Yeah.
Or is that what they took? Yeah, the top 8. And so, yeah, he had a good tournament.
So a couple other Iowa preps moving on there as well. Well, let's transition to the Big 12 that was held in
Tulsa.
Oklahoma. Lo and behold, Iowa State actually had the lead after the first session. Tournament high 8 semifinalists. They end up finishing second to Oklahoma State, however. But the Cyclones have a pair of champs, David Carr and Ian Parker. The first time they've had multiple champs since 2014. I think it was Weatherspoon and Gadsden. And then Carr is their first freshman conference champion since Weatherspoon in 2014. So a good showing there by the Cyclones, who have 8 qualifiers.
8 qualifiers.
Right. And
Grandma and Mackel were runner-up. They were also in the finals.
Right. I thought they had a chance for 8 plus, potentially 2 others. I think, though they switched me up a little bit, I thought maybe Small might qualify at 33. He did not. And then I knew Straw had a chance. Remember I mentioned that? He was a
Right.
champ last year, so he wrestled, bumped up weight, wrestled to 6, I think. Maybe he's the one that had to wrestle that true 6. Anyway.
No, he finished 4th.
Or 4th, was it? Okay.
Yeah.
And
But they took 4.
Oh,
so
took 4, yeah.
So grab the last spot.
And he grabbed that last spot, and that was neat to see Chase qualify there. So they got their 8, and I think that they're probably that's it. I don't think they're going to have a chance for anyone else to be an at-large.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they will either.
I think Small's best chance he needed to finish 9th and win that.
That last
I
match.
don't know what you call that little bracket, really. For people that don't know, one of the criteria I would say, or one of the things that benefit wrestlers if you don't get an automatic bid is if you finish one spot out of the automatic qualifying spots. So in a place like when you have 8 going, they do that to see who actually finishes a true 9th. And he finished 10th. If you want to go by that, even though those matches don't affect the team scores at all, they're extra to determine those placings. But Carr, coming back from the knee surgery mid-season, missing time, put together 3 quality wins and beating Wyatt Sheets in the final 6-4 for that.
Kind of joined some lofty company, like you were saying.
Yeah.
Weatherspoon, Cale Sanderson, Tim Krieger, I know. So just off the top of my head, that's pretty lofty company to be.
That win as freshman, you mean?
One of his freshmen, yeah.
Joel Heskett,
Joel
even though
Heskett,
he
yeah.
wasn't a 4-time conference champ, he won as a freshman as well. And I think David Zabriskie also
Zabriskie, yeah.
was one where he won as a freshman, didn't win it as a sophomore, and then won as a junior and senior. Looking that up last night. Carr puts himself in position to be a 4-time conference champ. You mentioned 2 of them already. Cale Sanderson Tim Krieger, who I was sitting there thinking, okay, Tim Krieger, you don't hear a ton about him. And I just wondered if like wrestlers coming up nowadays have an idea of who Tim Krieger was and how good of a wrestler
He's good.
He was at Iowa State, because you hear of bigger names and stuff, or more recent names. But
He's a
Tim
Mason City
Krieger was a
prep that had such. He's a freestyler that had such great body control and great back arch throws, and he had a little move, that kind of thing we called the Krieger. It was
Really?
one of his throws, yeah. So
And probably the reason people don't think about him is because he didn't get into coaching and stuff, so his name never gets brought up.
Well, I think he coached at the D3 level for a little bit.
A little bit.
he was
Yeah.
there. He was briefly at UNI also,
Okay.
and then walked away right in mid-season. So I'm not sure what that was all about.
And I think he coached maybe at St. Thomas while they still had a program.
But his
in
name
Minnesota.
doesn't get brought up a lot.
Yeah, that's the point. Yep, exactly. But Pete Galea actually was Iowa State's first 4-time conference champ. I'm assuming that was Big 8.
Yeah, back then.
From 73 to 76. So David Carr, certainly a lot of expectations for him coming in, and he proved why. They had 4 finalists altogether. Alex Mackel. Well, let's not forget Parker in his overtime victory against Don DeMoss,
win.
one of your favorites.
I love it, but man, Parker had a great flurry to get that takedown and sudden victory, and it was, to win it. That was awesome. But we've been hearing Coach Dresser talk about Parker all year and how he does things right, and man, there you go, good for him.
Perfect example, and he's 16-2 heading into the national tournament. So he's going to be somebody. You talk about kind of the Big Ten guys at 141. Parker's going to be right
He'll
up
fit
there.
right in there, yeah.
Yep, he's going to fit in there very well. So it'll be fun to watch how he does here in the next couple weeks. And Mackel, a runner-up, and Gannon Gremmel, a runner-up at heavyweight. We've talked about it a few times, just about how well he's wrestled since the Southern Scuffle at the turn of the year. And even though he came up just a tad short in the finals, still a really, really good showing.
I was looking at that heavyweight class. There were so many overtime matches, sudden victory and overtime. It's like, and that as was that one in the finals, and it's like, it could go any direction.
Colbray, Coleman. Also get automatic burst. Jarrett Dagan at 149. You mentioned Chase Straw as well. Boy, imagine if they did have Austin Gomez at 133 this year. Imagine how much of a boost that would have been for them as well. But they certainly have done a great job, even without.
Absolutely, yeah, and they put it together. Remember, they had all those injuries, and I think they are still wrestling with some injuries, but they seem to wrestle through it. Like Dagan's shoulder's not going to go away, and some knee issues I think there. So, they really did a nice job of kind of drawing it. Well, Carr we hadn't seen for 5 weeks was it?
Yeah.
On the mat, and he looked all right. So.
And even after was it the Oklahoma State meet where Coach Dresser came down on the team, and how much, that this is. I guess improved.
Sure.
Or turned around.
Yeah. But the message was received, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
I did notice that Colbray had the injury default his last match, so I hope he's all right.
Yeah.
For 34.
Hopefully it's more precautionary.
Well, if it's injury default, they started the match and then he got injured. So otherwise it'd be medical forfeit. So.
Oh, I see. Sure.
So something happened there. I don't know.
Well, hopefully it's just minor for them, and sometimes
and even like Carr, being he's just coming back, gives him a couple more weeks of getting ready as well as Deegan and heal up a little more because he could make some damage or do some damage at the nationals.
For sure.
You and I finished third, a few points back. The team scores actually Oklahoma State had 147.5, Iowa State 116.5, and then Northern Iowa 111.5. Bryce Steyer and Taylor Lujan with titles at 174 and 184. Second time in 3 years they've had two Big 12 champions. Lujan wins his second Big 12 title in 3 finals appearances and joins Drew Foster as 2-time Big 12 champs. And Jim Nelson from the Waterloo Courier reminded me last night that Lujan actually won a MAC title as a freshman. So technically he's a 3-time conference champion. You know,
Switching conferences,
Yep. But still, Steyer looked impressive the entire tournament.
2 pins and a major, I think,
Yep.
on his way to a title,
Yep. And I
including
think,
a pin in the finals.
yeah, and I think he was up 11-6, 10-6, 11-6 when he got that pin over Montanono
OU.
of Oklahoma. And I'm sure I just butchered his name, but that's why I kind of mumble it there. Montanono.
And the other interesting thing is, because he had gotten beat by Colbray in the duel just not very long ago.
Right.
Yeah, he's on a mission right now,
Yeah.
it would appear.
Yep.
So, and then, I think you and I think they had to do it coming back on the backside, because they had some early losses that I know they weren't expecting. For instance, Swarm right off the bat, first match of the tournament, the number 2 seed goes down and has to wrestle all the way back. That's not one, easy to do, and 2, it doesn't get your team started off on the right foot. So, so they had to do that in a couple of instances where they had to wrestle up back to get there. And Schwarm did. He ended up being 4th and qualifying of 4 qualifiers at that weight. So
interesting, since I'm a numbers geek sometimes, to back your point a little bit, that first day on the backside, Schwarm, Skidlarczyk, Peyton Moore, and Carter Isley combined to go 8-0 in consolation matches.
Wow.
Wow.
And that was, I mean, we've talked about this before too, but that is not easy to do.
No.
Especially this time of year. But and even to boot, Schwarm had 2 falls. Who I want to.
Oh, imagine that. Though.
Yeah, right. And Schwarm has 16 falls right now and leads all of Division One. He has 2 more pins than Ben Darmstadt of Cornell and Matt Stencil of Central Michigan, who have 14 apiece. So that tells you a little bit about. I mean, everybody knows that by now with Schwarm, but he had 2 pins on the backside. Skidlarczyk had a major decision on the backside, and Peyton Moore added a fall on the backside as well. So those were bonus points that certainly helped. But of those guys, just to further your point, Schwarm came back and got an automatic berth. So did Skidlarczyk. So did Isley. So that was big. And Peyton Moore, I believe, finished 1 spot out. I think he got 6th, and then he took 5 at that weight class.
Right.
So, they really kind of gutted it out there.
And Isley took 4th in a deep weight class, because didn't they take 7 at weight?
7, yes.
So
Yeah.
I mean, for him to come back and and I think he went. Yeah, I think he lost a close match to the eventual champ, right? From Wyoming, but two guys that really kind of stood out for me. I gotta say this, Michael Blockus. Man, his story is incredible. I don't know the entire story, but last summer he had heart surgery
I did not
to
realize.
repair a valve
Yeah.
in his heart.
Well, and I was also told that the doctors told him he was not going to wrestle again.
Really?
And
Yeah.
here he is. That's in
And he
June or July.
Yeah, he basically
March,
said,
he's a qualifier.
"Yes, I am."
That's so cool.
Wow.
Well, good for him. But so that to me is, what a story there. And then with Thompson, that's the other side. He had a medical forfeit out of his last 2 matches, which would have got him qualified had he won those. So now I'm not sure what his status is, whether he's going to be healthy. whether he'll be
Yeah, they took
available.
5, and he finished 6th out of that by forfeiting out.
Yeah, and so in the consolation semifinals and for that 5th place match.
Right.
And so if he wins one of those, he qualifies, and he wasn't able to wrestle. So I don't know if he's injured and can be ready in 2 weeks, or even if because I think he's going to be a candidate for an at-large bid. So
Yeah, we're recording this on Monday afternoon, obviously, and Doug Schwab gives his weekly press conference. I think UNI does that every Monday afternoon, so it's actually probably going on right now,
Right.
where he might kind of elaborate a little bit more on that. But next week we'll catch that stuff for the D1s. I would assume Max, if he's able to go, should get one of those at-larges. With what even though it's been a little bit of an up and down season, with what he's been able to do overall, I
his
think
body of work,
yeah, I think he should be able to get one of those.
And kudos to Taylor Lujan, 2-time conference champ now, back to back.
12.
So, yeah,
Big 12 champ.
big, yeah.
And he's somebody going forward. I know some of his matches were a little closer than expected, but I still think Lujan is somebody that could be a national champion in Minneapolis on Saturday night.
Certainly in the hunt. I mean, yeah, that weight class opened wide open a couple weeks ago for sure.
Yeah, and we thought maybe there was a small chance that he could get reinstated. Zahid could get reinstated, and obviously that didn't happen with the Pac-12 championships this last weekend as well. So
Right.
we'll see going forward.
A couple other Iowa guys that
Yeah.
qualified for the Big 12.
Henry Pohlmeyer,
Henry Pohlmeyer,
runner-up.
Johnson,
For South Dakota
for
State,
South Dakota State.
and Tanner Sloan of Alburnett,
right?
both runners up
Runner-up, yeah.
at 197. Pohlmeyer is a sophomore or junior?
Yes.
Okay. Because Sloan is a freshman.
Might be a redshirt junior.
I'll look that up.
I think he's a 16 grad.
But I guess you get back to Tanner Sloan. I guess I always, because he's got his sheep and he farms and didn't do a lot of summer wrestling, so he never had the accolades that a lot of other wrestlers did. And so to me, with Tanner up there, it just it really fascinates me at the level of wrestling that he has accomplished.
And if you remember right, he was close to going to Cole, actually, at one point. So that was somebody that his kind of decision was made later on, and kudos to South Dakota State for hooking him. And
Yeah, I think that was Bono at that time. Was after him.
And Cody Caldwell was still on staff.
Right.
He's the one that's carried over. Pohlmeyer's a senior, actually, for South Dakota State. So.
I was going to say, the redshirt junior or senior.
Okay. So that was a good showing for him. Sloan, as we mentioned, a freshman, getting runner-up to Adams of West Virginia. But he's somebody that very well could be on the stand
Yes, he
in
could.
Minneapolis as well.
Yep.
So
And then Cordell Eaton from North Scott was finished 6th, so he's qualified. So.
okay, at 197 as
At
well.
197, yeah,
And
for
he-
North Dakota State.
North Dakota State. So a lot of Iowa flavor outside of those schools, and I know there are some other wrestlers for other programs like the Wests at Northern Illinois.
Right.
Just not sure how they did, but we'll check it out. Just kind of received word here. At-large bids will be announced Tuesday for the Division I tournament, with the full brackets being released on Wednesday
Oh,
So-
Of this week?
of this week.
wow.
So
Remember, it used to be Tuesday and Wednesday of
The
of
week
championship
of.
week.
Yeah.
So now they're working on that currently, and should release here in the next couple days.
That means when we get into these wrestling pools, we'll have the brackets to go by.
Yeah, right. Yep. So remember that on your fantasy leagues for the
That's right,
NCAAs.
that's right.
For you guys, we asked this about the Big Ten, but Big 12, biggest surprise.
Oh boy.
The one that comes to mind is Andrews from Wyoming. He beat,
Heavyweight.
not only did he beat Orndorff from Utah Valley, but then with the 1 point win over Gremmel in the finals as well.
You know, I guess just to pick one of the 10, I'm going to go with Parker. Pulling a win over DeMoss. So
Yeah, because you like a Damas, so.
I like Parker too now.
Yeah.
So I like them both, yeah.
And who do you think was the most impressive?
I thought Steyer, you know,
With his.
yeah, I mean, 2 pins.
Yeah.
2 pins in a major. is
2
that
pins
right?
in a
Yeah.
major.
Yeah.
His only match that wasn't bonus points was 4-1 over JoJo Smith.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so I would agree with you on Steyer as well. So, all right. Any other comments or anything from the D1 qualifiers, Big 10, Big 12 championships that to mention?
No.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how Caleb Young bounces back, assuming he gets one of the at-larges. And personally, even though we're not supposed to do stuff like this, really pulling for Max Thompson.
Right.
I hope he gets another shot and that he's able to compete.
It's a good
From
kid.
from his days at Union, I've always enjoyed talking to him and covering him, and just hope his senior year at least ends up at the NCAA tournament.
For sure,
Cap
yeah.
off a
Well, and then, you know, over when they're youth, that they in the club that they had over at Co, you had Max Thompson, you had Kyle, you had a lot of kids that are just going, going through.
Matt Wempen, I think, was
Wempen, right?
Hunter Washburn.
Washburn, and,
Saracen then probably in that
yeah,
in that
group.
bunch.
and so a lot of kids that were in that group that you're seeing now having some success nationally, and that's just really fun. And Max was one of those guys. He's just a class kid and a hard worker, and yeah, I hope the best for him too. Yeah.
So, do we want to discuss D3s at all here?
We don't have brackets, but we can
Right.
mention
Just kind of gloss over a little bit.
right.
You
We
know,
had 14
kinda top layer.
14 kids
observations.
from Iowa qualified for D3.
Really.
So, from Central, you had Nathan Fritz from Sigourney, Duncan Lee from Newton,
Okay.
and from University of Chicago, our local Ben Saracen from Kennedy. Speaking of Kennedy, I'm going to interrupt right now. We got news today that Dennis Henig hung up his whistle, and I want to say I totally enjoyed working with Dennis as a coach across on the other side of the mat and from this chair, from the media chair. So class act, and Kennedy's going to miss him a lot.
Yeah, and we'll just we'll wait till we'll get back to Henik after we get through the
Okay.
D3s.
Co has 4. Cole Erickson from Mediapolis, Brock Henderson from North Lynn, Taylor Mayman from Prairie, of course, and Riley Wright from Denver Tripola. And then Loris has 3, Jacob Krakow from Iowa Valley, Ringo, nearby here, Clint Limbeck from Xavier, Wyatt,
I know.
right, from North Scott, and then from Milliken, Braden Burt, who I think is he's got a chance to
He's
win that thing.
impressive at
He's
65.
looked good at the regionals. And then at Wartburg, Max Forsythe from Charles City and Kyle Briggs from Jefferson. So
One of the things that I think is pretty interesting, the D3 championships are here in Cedar Rapids, Friday and Saturday. make sure you get to the U.S. Cellular Center and check out some of the wrestling, at least for one session. And here's another reason why. There are 4 wrestlers from the metro area that are competing, and 4 returning All-Americans, if I remember right, that are representing 4 different high school programs here in the metro area. As Coach Briggs pointed out, you've got Taylor Mayman of Co., who wrestled at Cedar Rapids Prairie. You've got Clint Lembeck of Loris, who wrestled at Cedar Rapids Xavier. You've got Ben Saracen for the University of Chicago, who wrestled at Kennedy. And then, of course, Kyle Briggs, who wrestled at Jefferson, at Wartburg. 4 returning All-Americans, 4 individuals looking to get back on the award stand. I think that adds a pretty interesting angle to the action there. And nothing would mean more for a lot of members of their hometown community to come out and support them and kind of fill out the U.S. Cellular Center, to have their back and just watch some great wrestling to begin with. Team race could be fun as well. We've seen Loris qualify 8 total. You've got Augsburg coming down. They have 8 as well.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Wartburg with 5.
They have
6.
5, but I'll tell you what, they got 5 quality kids that could make a run
Put
for it
a
as
lot
well.
of points.
Even though they're maybe short on qualifiers, so that they'll be in the hunt too, I think.
Sure. You've got Co. Co's had a history of performing well here at the NCAA tournament with some top 4 finishes. They've got a handful of guys that, we saw Riley Wright put things together. We know how good Taylor Mayman is. Brock Henderson's a tough kid as well that can wrestle with the best of them. And Cole Erickson's a returning All-American.
2-time, yeah.
So,
I think he is a 2-time.
Yeah.
Yep.
and then you've got other teams, Wabash, Indiana, that's up there.
And
Usually
then don't
somebody
forget Stevens, that has 7 qualifiers from
out east.
that very solid
Which
regional.
I
You
think
never know, right? Jeez.
it's interesting that you mentioned that. I'm going to check this out really quick.
And to follow up on your comment, I can say personally that I know that for all of the local people and in the surrounding area that have had something to do with Kyle with him growing up, he would be most appreciative and thankful if you were in there watching and cheering for those guys for sure.
Looking at Stevens Institute of Technologies, trying to find their wrestling roster. I think there is kind of a connection. If I can find the right.
Go up to sports.
There we go. All right, technology is hard apparently here, folks. Of course, we talked about how I forgot to press record once on
The camera.
Actually, though, at that time, KJ, I think it was actually me that did that.
Oh,
And
okay.
it wasn't you.
All right.
I'll take the hit for that.
Okay. I thought somebody had told me Pete Galea had a connection to the Stevens coaching staff, but I don't see him on there. So, fake news. But you got, Loris put things together at the end of the season last year and had a great national tournament. I think it was a record. They were second last year, right?
Second,
to
right.
Augsburg. And that was their best finish.
2nd through 6 was pretty tight. First was quite a distance, quite a gap. I think Loris is set up to make another run at it. It's number wise, it would be them and Augsburg that would be the front runner
The
right
best
now. So.
best chances. So we'll see how that plays out. And that starts Friday morning with the first session. You can set your watch to it. There are going to be upsets. There are going to be crazy matches. There are going to be kind of head scratchers as well. Everything rolled into one seems to come out at the D3 tournament.
To support what you're saying there, I've kind of tried to look at how I think Kyle's bracket might be seeded, and I see that the top 8 kids will be seeded, and then there's 2 kids that are returning All-Americans that placed sixth, 4th and 6th last year that won't be they'll be drawn in. So the number 1 seed could draw one of those 2 All-Americans or whatever. So so to your point, absolutely, there's going to be some tough matches in that first round.
Do they just seed the 8?
I think they'll seed the top 8 and then draw the other 10.
Don't forget the NCAA Division II Championships are also this week. Upper Iowa has 4 competing.
5.
5.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So you got
so
Justin Foley, who's the 3rd seed at 133.
Okay.
And then you've got Chase Lundsman, the 5th seed.
That's who I was missing.
And
'Cause I
Dalton
knew
Hahn.
the 3 upper weights.
Dalton Hahn at 84 is unseeded, but I think he had a good spot. He'll have the 4th seed first round, so that's a good place to be, I think. And then Nick Baumler, 2nd seed, 29-2 on the season. And then Tristan Westerlund, who's 24-5, was unseeded. He unfortunately do the number 2 seed, so hopefully he can get an upset there. But Upper Iowa, I think, is going to make a nice run too.
But just like you had mentioned with the D3s, you'll see a lot of upsets right off the bat. So there you go. There's your Westerland right off the bat.
I'm guessing the number 2 seed's going, holy cow, I have this guy first round.
Yeah,
Huge.
right.
So,
And I believe, is that in
Sioux Falls,
Sioux
Augustana.
Falls.
Augustana,
okay.
Augustana's the host.
All right. So, if you're able to make the drive out there as well and not come into Cedar Rapids, go support the Peacocks. With some local guys here
Others up.
competing. One other thing, I just received an email here. Want to share that Spencer Lee has been named a semifinalist for the AAU James E. Sullivan Award. I think people understand that Lee certainly one of the front runners for big awards in wrestling, but this encompasses all amateur athletics.
Of course, yeah.
He also recognize amateur contributions and achievements from non-professional athletes across the country. It's presented to the athlete who has demonstrated the most athletic success as well as leadership, character, and sportsmanship in the past year. So he is now a semifinalist for that award that's been in existence since 1930.
Oh, look! Read the bottom one. The notable athletes that have won it.
Oh, for sure. Carl Lewis in 1981, Jackie Joyner Kersey in 1986, Michael Phelps in 2003, Sean Johnson, who has Iowa ties, obviously from West Des Moines, in 2008, former UCLA basketball star Bill Walton, 1973, one of Nathan Ford's favorites to listen to, University of Tennessee quarterback Peyton Manning, and then Catherine Plummer as well.
The Sullivan Award. I think we've only had 2 wrestlers win that, if I remember right.
Did Kale?
I thought Kale won
won
it.
it? And who was the other one?
Was it Anthony Robles maybe, or
Could be.
I'm not sure. I think we've had 2
Could
as all
be.
ever win that.
So Spencer Lee, actually a great honor just to be a semifinalist and has as good a chance as anybody to win that. And that'll be announced April 21st in New York City. So
Very cool.
yeah, so we'll see how that plays out here in the next month. Any parting words?
Well, we got to go through a little bit of the NAIA National Championships.
All right, yeah.
Yeah.
Grandview with their 9th straight team
Holy
title,
cow.
which is a college wrestling record.
And they're a little different. They can qualify more than one a weight. So they qualified 12 guys, had 10 All-Americans. Ironically, or at least to me it was ironic, that at 133 they had 2 qualifiers, and those are the 2 kids that didn't place. Ended up with 2 national champs, with Ronaldo Rodriguez Spencer at 65. I believe it was 57.
Okay.
Excuse me. He was a national champion, and Evan Hansen from Elkhorn Kimballton won his 4th national title. He is the 8th eighth person to win 4 national titles at the NAIA division. So, a great accomplishment for him. They had Justin Portillo and Kenan Lee were also finalists, runner-ups. But they had first 2 sessions, they went 18-0.
Wow.
They just kind of rolled and then kind of, I guess, stumbled a little bit, but maybe not a whole lot when you have 10 All-Americans. But also, you got to bring up Brendan Swafford from Mediapolis, who was Graceland's first national champion since 1976.
Really?
Yeah.
Of course, they reinstated their program in 2013, which had been down for about 30 years or 30 plus years. So
Nice feat
it really
for
was.
him and the program.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, for the finals matches, there were some great matches all the way up and down the line. Evan Hansen had to wrestle Isaac Bartel from Mason City in the finals, which is a repeat of last year's finals because Hansen beat him last year 6-4. This year he pinned him, but Isaac got in on a nice single leg, and Evan kind of scooted around and got kind of a cradle locked up in there and turned him over on his back. Yeah, and also at heavyweight, he was the runner-up. Farmer from Concordia, Nebraska. I believe it's Nebraska. I'm thinking it's Nebraska. He was a lineman for the Nebraska Cornhuskers a year ago.
Really?
Wow.
And came out to wrestle, and he got beat in the finals, sudden victory, I believe. And anyway, when I wanted to ask him afterwards how this compared to football, because he was so gassed that I don't know if he could have climbed up on that award stand.
Or
He
answered
was,
you.
or answered me. I mean, he was literally gassed.
Wow.
But that was kind of fascinating that you had a former offensive. He was an offensive lineman for Nebraska.
Wow.
And came back and finished his
1 year of eligibility in wrestling.
his year of eligibility to wrestle.
Awesome.
But also Sean Breeson from Graceland finished 4th. But talking about getting on that backside, and that's 2 days. He had to wrestle 8 matches in 2 days.
Wow.
Because he had gotten beat. And it was they have big brackets. They're not just 16 or 18 man brackets. They're pretty good sized brackets. Got beat in the quarterfinals, and then to come back and finish 4th, he had 8 matches in 2 days.
Wow.
So, or 7, one or the other, but still.
A lot of matches.
Yeah, because you got to wrestle 4 matches at least in one day. Northwestern had an All-American in Andrew Knoll, who finished 8th at 65.
Okay.
And William Penn had Joe Eads at 49 and finished 7th. So some of the other schools, got in there. And
Two observations for me. One, congratulations to the Swafford family. That's really cool. I mean, they're pretty deep into wrestling, coaching, helping you. Their boys have wrestled with Kyle, and we've traveled together. So that was really nice to hear that with Brendan. And then also for Grandview to tie now the record for 9 straight with Gable, Dan Gable in D1, who's had 9 straight. So next year they'll be looking to break the record, I guess. So congratulations to that staff and to that program for sure.
and it was pretty. At the reception afterwards, you got the president of Grandview there. I mean, so they've got the support system.
Down in Missouri, correct?
Kansas.
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 I'm sorry, Kansas.
And the athletic director. So they got the support staff to back them up.
Administration,
there.
yeah.
Yeah,
that's
administration. Neat. It was great to see. They had that NEI. They go out there to wrestle. I mean, there's no get a takedown and back off.
Shut down.
Shut down type wrestling. They're after it.
That's fun.
And Brennan. And speaking of Swafford, though, he's a sophomore, 2-time All-American. I think he finished 7th last year, a year ago. So got a chance to be a 4-time All-American himself.
The JUCO National Championships were this weekend as well. They were held in Council Bluffs at the Mid-American Center.
Right,
Okay.
Council Bluffs.
Clackamas Community College, I believe, from Oregon,
Right.
came away with a team title. Iowa Western tied for third. Ellsworth was fifth. Iowa Western had a champ in Isaiah Crosby at 165. And then from Eastern Iowa, Boone McDermott, former Dubuque Wahlert prep.
Champ. Boone.
Won the champ, was a heavyweight champion for Iowa Central.
He was in that co-room a little bit too, I think.
Was he
So,
really?
Yeah.
So Boone McDermott, if looking, he might make a impact here for a school looking for a heavyweight.
Yeah.
So
See where he lands.
yeah.
Ellsworth
but,
finished 5th.
Yep.
Ellsworth finished 5th, Iowa Central 8th, Nyack 12th, and Iowa Lakes 13th. So they had all 5 JUCO schools in the top 13.
And pretty impressive.
Yeah, it
That's
is.
something that gets overlooked
Right.
a little bit. Just how well schools in the state at the JUCO level do. I think. Of course, it would be nice to have a few more on the eastern side of the state.
Like Kirkwood.
Like
Oh,
Kirkwood.
well, or maybe we weren't supposed to say we should have Kirkwood to have wrestling, but
Should we have said we
That-
think Kirkwood should have wrestling?
You know, I don't think we should have said that. Kirkwood should have had wrestling. Maybe,
You know,
maybe it's all right that Kirkwood
What's all
should
right?
have wrestling.
Well,
like Kirkwood should have wrestling?
Yeah.
well, speaking of, didn't Chad Zapital?
Travis Pfizer actually wrestled at Kirkwood.
Kirkwood? Oh.
Yep. I kind of
You
misspoke.
goofed? Okay.
Yeah. So
Because I knew they did have wrestling at
yeah,
one time.
it was
I
Travis
don't-
Pfizer back in the day that wrestled for Iowa Valley and then Kirkwood and then Iowa. And his son now
is going to Cole,
is
isn't he?
going to Cole. Has wrestled a few matches for Cole. This
I didn't
year.
know that was his
So,
son. How about
yeah.
that? Okay.
So wrestling for one of Pfizer's teammates, John Ostendorf. So yeah. So Zapital, of course, a Centerville guy that wrestled at Iowa, part of that group with Brands, and
Was he a 3-time runner-up?
he might have been. I know he ran into Prescott. I think it was Jim Prescott from Penn State that he faced quite a bit.
We had a move called the Zap Tap. It was not just ours. I mean, you know that he was in that front headlock position, came across and cut that cross leg and would cradle him up or cut across to a pancake position. And Tim Ironside ended up doing that in the semifinals to beat the defending state champion. Yes,
Yeah.
with the Zap Tap.
3-time NCAA finalist, 3-time Big Ten champ.
So you're right.
And then it was a 2-time state champ at Centerville. So, all right. Well, we got a little bit of a break from D1 wrestling until next week, but D2s and D3s this weekend to kind of bridge the gap between the NAIA and JUCO championships. But fun time will be had this weekend in Cedar Rapids for the D3s. So make sure you come out and support wrestling, get to that tournament. A lot of man hours and a lot of work has gone into not just bringing it here, but putting on a good show for the student athletes. So make sure you get out and support that. Any final words?
Just looking forward to the weekend.
No?
Should be a fun time down in a bit, especially since it's
Be
close
there.
to home.
Yep. So you can follow Wyatt's stuff at thegazette.com, or I'm sorry.
Well, that's you.
Okay. We'll try this again. You can follow this stuff at thepredicament.com. We'll have content at thegazette.com as well. We'll do some stuff in between sessions. So make sure you follow us on Facebook and Twitter for those updates and those mini podcasts during the national tournament this weekend. Thanks for watching, and I'll let the Hall of Famer take us out.
Let's keep wrestling on the move.